The Titans are a weird one. My thinking is that the Titans are basically just like the arcane version of old gods. So old gods are really big and really powerful and have free will and have autonomy, but they only exist in our reality. They're from the void, but old gods don't exist in the void. Old gods are basically scouts that the void send out into our reality. They fire them out like t-shirts from a t-shirt cannon, you know? And like, the Titans exist in our reality. They're literally born in our reality. It's like, well, so if they're born in our reality, they're not really from the arcane realm, are they? They may be beings of the arcane and of order, but they're not born there. They don't spend any time there. They're much more like old gods in that respect. They're representatives of that cosmos in our reality, which, yeah, it makes them the equivalent of old gods. And it makes you think, well, what's the Titan equivalent of a void god? You know? What's the arcane version of a void lord? Because it's not Titans, it's something much bigger. So it's really interesting to think about. And when you think about it in those terms, then yeah. But they are stronger than the average old god. Well, that's okay. You know. That's all right. That's yeah, okay. Cool. Like, you know, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Could our reality not be the arcane one? No. Not if the Titan and there are two cosmos charts in existence. One that was made in our reality, you know, with knowledge that we gleaned mostly from Titan stuff. Doesn't mean the Titans told us that cosmology chart. But we pieced it together. Like, if you're only when we say that Chronicle was written from the point of view of the Titans, it's really dangerous to think that means the Titans wrote it. That's not what happened. Okay, they didn't sit down and write Chronicle to trick us or anything like that. Try and think of it more like this. If the only historical accounts you had of this planet were the Bible, if no other history books existed and all you had was the Bible, then you would be writing history from the point of view of Christians, right? It doesn't mean that, like, you know, it doesn't mean that Christ sat down and wrote history. It means that, you know, like, the only thing you've got to go off really is very Christian centric. And then if you discovered like the Quran or something, that would change your point of view. If you discovered historical records, literally first-hand accounts that weren't connected to the Bible from, you know, that would suddenly change everything, right? But it doesn't mean that Christian account was there, like the accounts you put together from the Bible were tricks or anything. It just means like that's all you had to go off. And that's how you should think of Chronicle being written from the Titans' point of view. In my opinion, that's what it means. And so the one in Chronicles is really interesting, and it's from what we know of the cosmos, but it is backed up, importantly. Here's the thing. So when you're a historian, what you're doing is you're looking for confirming independent sources. The broker chart, as we call it, has nothing to do with our reality. It was made by brokers in a different reality, in the realm of death, okay? And yet, they have basically come up with the same thing. They've basically, from whatever information they've got, and they presumably got a lot more than us as well, by the way, but they have put together a cosmology chart which basically confirms, with differences, but confirms the gist of the Chronicle one. So if you're a historian looking at those two different sources that have both come to the same conclusion, then you're thinking, well, okay, there's probably something in this, right? This is a great analogy, because if you do argue with a Christian who believes the Bible is the word of God, they too will refuse to understand and instead just insist that the woke liberals are doing something shifty. Yeah, Totally. Do you get a lot of, when a lot of Christians going, but the whole point of the Bible is that it's canon at last, written down. We've got videos of Jesus saying it at BlizzCon, and I just feel very cheated that they've changed their mind on that. Would the arcane gods have the same limitation that void lords do then, perhaps? They cannot sustain themselves in the physical universe and would seep into nothingness, or perhaps the arcane gods are composed of so much energy that if one entered the physical universe, that would literally... Yeah, I mean, they can make it anything, right? They could make it anything. Sorry, to answer the question and get back on topic a little bit, the two different cosmology charts do tend to seem to back each other up. And they're from two different sources, so I think it's reasonable to speculate that the broad strokes of both are correct in this instance. Are the Titans not the arcane gods? No, well, I don't think so. I mean, maybe they are, but going on the evidence that we have, the fact that they're born in our reality, they don't go to like the arcane realm as far as we know. They exist entirely in our reality, and they keep going round to world souls trying to turn them into Titans, just like the old gods keep going around to world souls trying to turn them into void Titans. Like... they certainly seem, in the way they act and behave, to be the arcane equivalent of old gods rather than the arcane equivalent of void lords. Does that make sense? Like, they've got loads more in common with old gods than they do void lords, put it that way. So we think the Titans are equal power level to old gods. That's not what I said. I said that in terms of their purpose and what they are, they have much more in common with old gods. They might be stronger than old gods. They are born of world souls after all. Maybe if an old god did successfully corrupt a world soul, the old god that was born of that world soul would be similar power levels to a Titan. That's where the chart puts them anyway. Which chart? Sorry. Let's get the charts up. I love the charts. I can never get enough of the charts. Here we go. So, in the... How powerful are the Shadowlands Primus and etc.? Are they considered Titans or what? So they were described in Shadowlands as being Titan-level power. Not sure if we're going to treat that as canon, honestly. Perhaps a Titan is actually an arcane old god who successfully possessed a world soul. I mean, honestly, that's exactly what I think they are. So, I've got my theories about Shadowlands as well. I don't believe we should be retconning the expansion Shadowlands, but I do think the door is open to retcon what the Shadowlands is. Because one of the big things that I think... I think Shadowlands got a lot wrong on a conceptual level. And I think probably honestly, apart from the very bad patch cadence, the main thing that's wrong about Shadowlands from day one, and I said this in the build up to the reveal of Shadowlands, is that it's not a good concept for an expansion. And by the way, this is completely apropos of nothing in terms of what we're discussing here. But, both of these cosmology charts show the Shadowlands as not actually being part of the Death Realm. The Chronicle cosmology charts shows the Shadowlands as being like a mirror of the Emerald Dream that exists in our reality. And that's backed up by what we see on the Shadowlands as well, when we're in there. I still think I don't think they are doing this, by the way, but I think that the devs and the story writers going forward should treat Shadowlands as not actually being part of the Death Realm, and we haven't actually been to the Death Realm. We were in the Shadowlands, which is part of our reality. It's specifically the place where people from our reality go when they die. It's part of our realm. And I don't think that's what Shadowlands did. I think Shadowlands treated the expansion treated the Shadowlands as if they were part of the Death Realm, but I don't think they are. I don't think they should be. It's not how they're shown, and it's not how the things that we see on the Shadowlands what they represent either, right? When the Arbiter broke, all souls went into the Maw. Does that say what does that say about the Maw? That's where souls used to go. Is the Maw the true Shadowlands? I don't think so. Maybe, but like everyone in the Shadowlands is from our reality. No one who isn't from our reality, apart from the old gods, apart from the wild gods, went to the Shadowlands when they died. You know, there were no demons there. There were no light things that went there when they died. There were no, like, void lords or anything there. The only people that go to the Shadowlands when they die are people from our reality. It's a part of our reality. It's not part of the death realm. So it's always a terrible, terrible fucking conception from expansion in the first place, and one of the things that proved to be the most hindering aspects of it. So anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, right, yeah, okay. So the Titans are here shown as being part of the Order realm, but it's probably worth mentioning in relation to my theory and how I consider the Titans, that they are literally on the same part of the Order diagram that the old gods are on the Void diagram. Probably worth mentioning that. Like, the old gods make up this inner segment of the shadow part, of the void part of the cosmology chart, and the Titans make up the same segment. Now, all of these segments, by the way, the Naru, the wild gods, the Burning Legion, the undead, the Titans, the old gods, these are all the manifestations of these cosmoses that appear in our reality. The Burning Legion are the manifestation of the Fel in our reality. The undead are the manifestation of the death realm in our reality. The old gods are the manifestation of the void in our reality. The Titans are the manifestation of arcane in our reality. The wild gods are the manifestation of life in our reality. They are not the guys that live in these different realms. Likewise, Naru with light. The implication, backed up by what we know about the void, is that these are the guys, these are like the representatives of these cosmologies in our reality, but they don't live in those realities. They're basically, like, for want of a better word, ambassadors, scouts. Does that make sense? Avatars, yeah, sure. Good word. So when I think of the Titans as being like the arcane version of the old gods rather than the Void Lords, and that's backed up on the cosmology chart, it's also backed up by all the evidence of our eyes and ears and, like, you know, how they behave and how they act. Where would you put the Eternal Ones in here? We don't. The Eternal Ones. Shadowlands lore is so fucked up. So, if Shadowlands is in the realm of death, then the Eternal Ones are not like the Titans or the old gods, because they actually live in the realm of death and they don't visit us. They don't exist in our reality. They exist in the realm in question, you know? So they are more like Void Lords than old gods in terms of their purpose. If the Shadowlands really is in the realm of death, which I maintain it's not. Where is lightning magic in this? Up my ass picking strawberries. Sorry. Did anyone's mum ever used to say that? My mum used to say that all the time. When you asked us where something was which annoyed her, she'd be like, up my ass picking strawberries. No one's mum ever said that? Okay, my mum said it all the time. Isn't lightning damage nature? Yeah, lightning damage is nature, of course. Sorry, I was being facetious. Obviously, it's nature. So yeah, it would be in there. That's going to be a no from me. That's, well, you know, you can use it with your own kids now. So, going along with this, the spirit healers are equal to old gods, but for death. They are from death, but present in our world. Nice one. Okay, so this is complicated by Shadowlands' terrible lore. But aren't the spirit healers basically Kyrians? Kyrians are a tricky one because they zap between the Shadowlands and our reality or our world, right? So they're not really a great representation for either of those things. They're kind of a bit unique, because old gods only exist. They are created for the express purpose of existing in our reality, whereas Kyrians skip between the two. Probably a more we don't know much about the life realm, and we don't know much about the light realm. We don't, and to be honest, we don't even know much about the Fel realm or the Arcane realm. I would argue we don't know much about the Death realm either. The realm we honestly know most about, and the way it functions and the way it's shaped, is the Void and the Shadow. And that's only because we know about, or we think we know about, the existence and the creation of the old gods and what their purpose is, and we know that there are Void Lords behind the scenes, etc., etc. What about the Twisting Nether? Well, the Twisting Nether is like a schism, right? Twisting Nether is like a schism of the Fel, but in our reality. Like, it's basically a big hole in reality that was ripped open. It makes core sense if you think of Shadowlands as the dream of death. Yeah, totally. In the same way the Emerald Dream is like the dream of life, right? Kirin steals souls from our reality, take them to Shadowlands to feed the wheel of First Ones. I mean, that would be wild. I'm still kind of surprised they did the Kirians the way they did. Oh, I know. But look, they absolutely fucked themselves when they decided to do Shadowlands. Because the second they decided to set a expansion in Shadowlands, they were bound into making different zones with different flavors, and not just doing the Shadowlands like it was. They had to make the Shadowlands much, much more than it is supposed to be. That's why you could never have an expansion set in the Emerald Dream, because you'd have to have like a dirty zone, right? It wouldn't just all be green. It would be like, oh, okay, well, we need like, the zone where actually there's loads of machines and shit. And it'd be like, no, just don't do that. Likewise, why it was right that we didn't have an expansion set on Argus. Because, some things are supposed to just be one note. Things are supposed to just be one note sometimes, and you can't do that with the Shadowlands. They were always fucked from the second they decided to, do that and set it there. It was just a bad concept and bad idea, and it fucked them from a lore point of view, because they had to like bend it and change it to be something more than it's supposed to be. I would not be mad if they retconned the Shadowlands and it was all a dreamline, if I'm honest. Honestly, that might be better for the future of the game, but I don't know. I like to think we can work around and make stuff work. And for me, the fix is just to acknowledge what I think is true anyway, but which I think they kind of had to ignore. And here's the thing, right? Shadowlands is clearly set up to be part of our reality and not part of the Death Realm, right? But because they fucked themselves by saying we're going to set an expansion in the Shadowlands, they had to basically ignore that and treat it as if it were part of the Death Realm. If we just acknowledge that, Shadowlands is actually part of our reality and not part of the Death Realm, then that's all. I mean, it shouldn't even be a retcon. That would be all the kind of undermining that it would need, Would be better to have some one notes every other expansion, like have a death zone so you go to Shadowlands that looks the same everywhere. The way you do it is you do it in patches. You do it in 0.3 or 0.2 these days patches. Argus, the perfect 0.3 patch. Nyalotha should have been a 0.3 patch instead of just a raid, That's where you can explore those one note areas, is in patches. Argus did it the best. Argus did it brilliantly. I still think the way that they explored Argus was amazing. Just fantastic. Yeah, Najata. I think narratively Najata could have been much better. Like with Argus, the way they had 3 zones in Argus and you got one every week for 3 weeks and each one had its own story. Just fucking brilliant. Like, so fucking good. What's your favorite expansion? I would say my top 3, in no order, are Mists, Legion, and Dragonflight. I think one day we're going to have a very, very serious reevaluation of BFA. In my opinion, the next remix expansion, the next thing that they do remix for, should be BFA. Because I think going back to BFA, being able to play all of the story in one go without the constant cliffhanger fatigue that BFA suffered from, and without the bullshit of Azerite, I think people would reevaluate that expansion so fucking much. I think the next one they will do is Legion. But BFA has amazing zones, amazing art direction, amazing story delivery. A WoD remix would be very, very short unless they added new stuff to it, which I don't think they want to do yet. I have no doubt they will do a WoD remix at some point, but I don't want them to do a WoD remix until they're ready to add shit. You know? Like, if they're just remixing right now, I want them to hold off WoD. Well, because, yeah, the WoD remix isn't going to really take in much Garrison stuff at all. You know? It seems logical to follow the chronological order from MOP. Does it? I not for me. It's not important at all. Yeah, everyone wants to see the cut raid from WoD, right? I think the Titans are the arcane equivalent of the old gods rather than the Void Lords, in that they exist in our reality, and they seem to have they seem to fulfill the same purpose, honestly, as well. Like, think about what the old gods are here to do. The old gods are here to find world souls and to try and turn them into void beings. What's the Titans' purpose? To find world souls and nurture them into Titan beings, arcane beings. Like, they even have the same job description. What do they do when they come across a world soul? They cover it in stuff to control it from their own realm. When old gods come across a world soul, they dig their roots in, they spawn their own, like, populations of followers and beings and things, and they populate the world. Titans do exactly the same thing when they come across a world soul. They put facilities down, they make watchers, they create minions who look after the world. They literally do the exact same thing, but one's doing it for Void and one's doing it for Arcane. And that's why I think that Azeroth is not a Titan, because I don't think that world souls are de facto Titans. One is much better for living things, lol. Really? Which one's better for living things? The Titans populate their world with robots. Like, the things that the Void, the old gods populate their worlds with actually are alive. They're made of flesh. The only reason there's any actual living things, on Azeroth is because of the old gods. Otherwise, it would still just be populated by robots with programming. So if you weren't trolls and Tauran native, they came after the Black Empire. Where do you think they came from? Trolls didn't exist before the Black Empire. So, look, I'm not saying that you're not right in saying that, basically the Titans are better for us than the Void. I think you're right. But if you're saying that one is better for life, I'm not sure it's the Titans. They don't create life. The old god, the Black Empire existed long before any of the native species that we recognize on Azeroth. It was basically just elementals here before the Black Empire. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's how I remember it. Order helps living cells not turn into cancerous tumors and such. Sure, yeah, totally. But now you're talking about balance rather than, which one is better. They create order, but do you know what else creates order? Cities, concrete, sewage systems. They're not very nature-friendly, generally, the Titans. Yeah. Prison systems create order. And that's the thing, right? You know, like it's reasonable to assume that the side of the cosmos that is obsessed with order would have fascistic or dictatorial tendencies, right? It's not a reach to be like, oh, the guys that really fucking love order, yeah, they might be a little bit kind of megalomaniac. They might be a bit dictatorial, right? I am curious where the undead are coveting world souls, yeah. So, Fel aren't really anarchist. I'd say, like, honestly, life is probably the most anarchist. Because, like, life is just, like, go at it. Fel is a destructive force, okay? So, Arcane is an ordering force. Life is a growing, living force, like a creative, light is a kinetic, energetic force. I'm just going by what Chronicle says, right? Fel isn't just chaos. No. Fel is very specifically created from destruction. That's why it's attached to like fire and fire imagery, right? Is because it's entropy. Thank you. Yeah, it's not just chaos. It's very specifically entropic chaos in that it's created from destruction of other things. Yeah, entropic is what is the best word to describe Fel. Yeah. Created from destruction? That sounds like an oxymoron. No, it's literally a force that exists in that. It's literally entropy. Entropy doesn't mean destruction. Oh my fucking God. Would it be okay if you just tried to understand the thing that I'm saying in like the spirit in which I'm trying to say it instead of being a cunt? Like, if someone's trying to communicate something which is difficult to communicate to me, and like they don't use like the exact right words, but I'm able to understand what they're trying to say anyway, you know, isn't it more important that I'm just like, yeah, I understand what you're trying to say, rather than be a cunt about it? Would that be easier for everyone? Like, you know how you do in real life all the time? Yeah, no, like, and this is actually like what I consider to be the best thing about the World of Warcraft movie, is that it actually shows really, really well how Fel works and how it's created specifically. The magic in The Witcher is the same, okay? You know how like they'll be holding a flower and then they do some magic and the flower withers and dies. Like Fel is like that. It's created from destruction. And I think entropy is a good word for it, because entropy is like, you know, it's the one-way movement of energy, right? The energy that creates Fel can't be turned into something else again. It's just completely destructive. Like Fel is the, you know, you can't unstir the jam from a rice pudding, right? You can't unmix chocolate like from ice cream, right? You know, it's like, yeah, I actually, you know, think that entropy is a good word to describe Fel. Yeah, you can't reform something from ashes, exactly. That's a much better way of putting it, thank you. So Fel is a byproduct of chaos. No, chaos is a byproduct of Fel. Chaos is a byproduct of, like, the way Fel works. Like, if the creation of fire is fire, then the end result of fire is ashes. The end result of Fel is disorder, right? That's why it's opposite order in the thing, yeah. Which would mean we are the entropic bit. No, like the beings, you know, just the existence of Fel is that. But Void is also a bit life with flesh and such. Yeah, exactly. So Void isn't like a destructive force. Fel is a destructive force. Death is a decaying force. So these are all forms of destruction, but they're different forms of destruction. Like, so Fel is like ignition, entropy, destruction, okay? Like physical destruction. Death is like decomposition, and shadow is consumptive. It doesn't burn shit for energy. It disappears it. Yeah, absolutely. A death is ordered destruction. Yeah, you could say that's what decomposition is, honestly. Whereas light is a creative force, and it's very kinetic. It's described as being, pretty much it's pretty much the first of any of them that are described in Chronicle, and it's described. And don't forget, if Chronicle is from the point of view of the Titans, it's from the point of view of Arcane and Order, but it still has a lot of nice things to say about the light. The light is kinetic. It's a creative force, and it's through kinetic energy. It's described as being very energetic. How is light a creative force? Because whereas, okay, so if Fel is creating energy from burning wood, light is creating energy that makes the wood. Does that make sense? The wood has been formed of energy, and then fire burns it and releases that energy and uses up that energy. And light is like the energy that created that wood in the first place. But Taliesin, what makes the woody? Every time I look at your mum, dude. So light is life? No, life is life. So life is if light is like a kinetic energy, life is a biological energy, right? Light seems to be about singularity. The light has one truth compared to the void, etc. Yeah, we don't know anything about the light. Everything that we know about the light is purely secondhand, or what old gods have told us. So pretty much every quote I hear about the light comes from an old god. Yeah, again, the whole light sees one truth, the void sees all truths. Who told us that? Who told us that? And when did they tell us that? When they were trying to convince us of something. Yeah, it came from Locust Walker, who is, pretty in with the void. Exactly. So all I'm saying is, I'm not saying it's untrue, but I'm just saying that we should probably be skeptical of what a void being, who is specifically trying to convince us to follow him at the time, by the way, as well, says about the light. The light is spiritual. No. You are, what you're doing there is you are imposing the way that beings in our reality worship the light with what the light actually is. You could build churches for the Titans, but that doesn't mean the Titans are spiritual. They've created a religion around the light, but it's just a cosmological force, just like any other. And in the Warcraft universe, it's not so much that light is the absence of void. It's literally described as such in Chronicle, that void is the absence of light. Light existed before void. Light was the first thing that existed in the Warcraft cosmology, according to Chronicle. And it is a kinetic energy, so it spread. And then in the parts that it had spread to and then pulled away from, that's where void was created. I wish they gave better explanations of this stuff in game. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of boring in game, a lot of this stuff. That's what it says in Chronicle anyway. Now, just because it's in Chronicle doesn't mean it's true, but it is currently the only thing we have to go off. I know this is Shadowlands lore, but they ever expand on how the Naru ended up in Shadowlands and the supposed light incursion in Revendreth? You've just answered your own question there, as far as I'm aware, Deatheran. The light and the Naru literally attacked the Shadowlands. When the light discovered that the Dreadlords had infiltrated their cosmos with spies, they were like, yo, fuck you. And they attacked Revendreth because that's where they originated from. Yeah. And the Void has attacked the Shadowlands as well, intergalactic disco wars. And it's fair to assume that the Naru in the Shadowlands is kind of left over from that, right? They got captured or whatever. The corners of both maps are the most interesting thing to me. What is behind the cosmological powers? Oh yeah, what like these corner bits? Yeah, I hear you. Hear what you're saying. I have so many more questions after watching this 20-minute segment. Dude, talk to me about it. It's fine. So my theory at the moment, my working theory, by the way, is that, and when I say theory, I don't care if it's wrong, and I want to make that very, very clear. I'm just telling you what I believe and how I've read the text that we've been given. And when I say text, I mean the whole of Warcraft. Okay, when I say text, I mean it in like an analytical sense, and a critiquing sense. In that Warcraft is the text here, so that refers to like any books and things like that. And the way I read the text is how I've explained it. But it's very important you realize that I don't care if I'm wrong. Like, just because this is what I've read and the way that I've interpreted the information that we've been given, that doesn't mean I'm wedded to it as an idea. It doesn't mean it's necessarily even headcanon. I don't care if it's wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong. I just like talking about it. And whatever's in the game is right, whatever the people writing WoW decide is correct. Yeah, the Dreadlords came from Revendreth. They were created by Syed and Athreus as spies and sent out all over the cosmos. It's always fun to be wrong. Yeah, if it's an interesting answer, I completely agree. And that's what I feel like. And I don't blame the WoW community for this, really. But it has happened in the WoW community in recent years and recent expansions. The WoW community has lost something really, really important when it comes to the lore and the story. And it's probably the most important thing. They've lost a sense of curiosity. And a sense of curiosity is the most important thing when you're looking at lore and speculation and things like that. We've moved. So, like, by a sense of curiosity, I mean, like, as a very obvious example, these two cosmology charts are different. Now, a curious way of looking at that is to go, ooh, I wonder why that is, and trying to work it out. And that's what the WoW community used to be like. But great example was the way the WoW community reacted to this second cosmology chart. That's not what they did. They went, well, that doesn't make sense. Fuck you. We've moved from being curious about stuff to just to being indignant about stuff. Back in the day, we'd have gone, ooh, that doesn't make sense. I wonder why. Let's get to the bottom of it. And now we go, oh, that doesn't make sense. Fuck you, Blizz. And so what I would implore the WoW community to do is try and rediscover that sense of curiosity. And I think, honestly, and I say it in this video, but I think these two cosmology charts are such a perfect example of that. They're such a perfect example of something that the WoW community should have looked at and gone, ooh, they're different. That's interesting. I wonder why. But they didn't. Mostly the WoW community looked at that second one. They went, oh, so Blizzard's just shitting on the old one, are they? Fuck you. Doesn't Blizz have to bring that back to the player? Well, you could argue that they did with this cosmology chart, but the players weren't interested. And like I say, it's not unreasonable that the community feel like that, because they feel cheated in other areas and stuff like that. But if you don't maintain that attitude, you miss out on a whole bunch of cool stuff, like people missed out on with this cosmology chart. People took one look at this cosmology chart, and people who like speculating about the lore and that's their thing. They went, oh, so Blizz is just changing the whole cosmology, are they? Oh, all these are just in different place now, are they? Oh, okay, so we're just shitting on Chronicle, are we? And it's like, you're missing out on some really, really fun stuff by not having that sense of curiosity. Having that sense of curiosity isn't just more fun. it's going to make you right more often. And I know you love being right,